We need to live by the fear of the Lord, not the fear of man. And the fear of man is not like being scared of people. It's caring too much about what people think of you. For a lot of us, we fear people far more than we fear God, if we're honest. We care far more about what people think than we do about what God thinks. I know that is true for me more days than I'd like to admit. So, what does this desire for status look like in your life? You see, although I think this temptation, or whatever you want to call it, is nearly universal, the reason, like the driving need for status, is often different for each of us. In other words, the social status that we seek is more of a means to an end rather than an end in and of itself. We want social status because we desire something deeply, and we believe if I can just be viewed a certain way, then I can get the thing that I deeply desire. For me, it's, am I successful? I'm always asking myself that question. Am I successful? Am I successful? Am I successful? And when I feel the greatest threat to my identity, when I'm not grounded in Christ, those moments, it's around the idea of, am I successful? For some of you, it might be, am I loved? The main reason you would like people to view you a certain way is because you ultimately just want them to love you and accept you. Some of you ask the question, am I good enough? Am I good enough? I just want to be viewed as good enough. I just want to be viewed not as inferior. Others of you ask, do I have purpose? Some of you might ask, am I wanted? We all ask a certain question that kind of drives this quest for importance and status and influence. And the biblical term for obsessing over those questions is this: to set the mind on the flesh. When we're obsessing over, am I successful? Am I loved? Am I good enough? Do I have purpose? Am I wanted? And it's leading us into this place of fear of man. We're setting our mind on the flesh. Listen to what Paul says about this. To set the mind on the flesh is death. But to set the mind on the Spirit is life and peace. It can be scary to fully let go of concern for how people think about you, but what you get in return is peace. You get to operate from a place of peace that you will not access as long as you are obsessed with how other people think about you. I mentioned that the am I successful question is one I ask myself a lot. What I've found is that if I don't get that question answered by God, usually first thing during the day, I will spend the rest of my day trying to get other people to answer that question. If I don't start and say, Lord, I know that success in my life is not accomplishing a certain thing or achieving a certain thing, it's obedience to you. That is how success is defined in the kingdom, obedience. When I can start my day with that, my conversations won't be getting you to make me feel successful. My social media posts won't be crafted so that I can feel successful by how you respond to them. I live in my true identity in Christ. But when we don't get that question answered by Jesus, if the main question you're asking is, am I loved? If you don't get that from Jesus first thing I think it's first thing in the morning. If you don't get that from Jesus, at least at some point in the day, you're going to spend your whole day getting people to try to love you so that you can get that need met. And we all probably know that is not the way of peace.